Got so big day today. And of course, today is not the only day that collectively we experience stress as a community. So I'm hopeful too that some of what we're gonna do today that I might reference or talk about, that you might find it useful in for other days where we maybe communally are experiencing stress or just you personally are. Anything from a big health event of someone in your family, a car accident, gosh, big developments with, a storm in your home, like all those things can just take over. And I feel like they take our nervous system by the neck and go like, da, 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 da. And we have to find ways to, move that through so that it doesn't make us sick. In my case, I'm really aware that stress, especially if I'm not speaking to it directly in my own head, I mean, if it's just kind of back here going, rah, 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 that it will tend to make me crispy. I'll tend to be less patient with people around me, less able to enjoy and absorb the beauty and the gifts and feel grateful for the goodness that is in my life. So I think it's extremely important for our health and then the health of the community of people around us that we get good at recognizing stress and developing our favorite tools for managing it. And so I'm not assuming that you're going to love or need every single tool that I'm offering. I'm hoping more that you will notice what one works for you or you gravitate to it at this time.
Can I ask if that light is bothering anybody else?
This one?
I can't really see you.
Yeah, thanks for telling me. I'll turn that off. I don't think we probably need it today. And it might be hard for the people on screen. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, but I'm loving this gray day. It feels, I don't know, for me it just feels very nourishing and perfect. Thank you, John. So speaking of nourishment, there are a couple of things I want to offer today. One is we're actually going to be starting off, don't go there quite yet, but we'll be starting off on our back body doing some self-massage with a tennis ball, and then we'll use golf ball a little bit later. And I find self-massage is whatever it is, and it might be literally just putting on hand lotion with a thoughtfulness, can be such a great way of bringing us into our body and removing surprising amounts of stress. When I'm massaging people and I'm on their hand or their scalp, and inevitably people are like, God, who knew I held that much tension there? So hopefully the ball will take you there today. We're also going to be adding, for those that want to, a little hit of this Olbas oil, which is a blend of like eucalyptus and clove and cajeput and peppermint. And it is the best kind of breath assisting oil that I've found. I know there's a bunch of them out there. I just find this to be amazing, and they make a lozenge too. So I know there's a lot of stuff starting to go around, sinus, throat, what have you, coughs. Over and over again, I've had people who like thought they'd used every lozenge in the book and they couldn't stop coughing when they would lay down. Tried the Olbas ones and it was helpful. So I want to throw that out there here at the beginning of our kind of winter season, but we're going to add this in part because I'm stuffy as heck from allergies, but also that I think when we accentuate breath, it speaks immediately to our nervous system. I am whole, I am well, I am safe, right? Breath that is restricted or hard to get sends the opposite message immediately of kind of not okay, not okay, not okay, in this really subtle vagus nerve, kind of back of the mind sort of way. We're also going to do a couple of techniques for helping kind of massage our vagus nerve. And so those are some of my goals with you today. And inside of it, of course, as always, is to have you take great care of yourself. So if you've got a knee that you're taking care of, a neck that you're taking care of, whatever it might be, edit what I'm offering, and you won't get ditched. You can join back in when it feels good, or certainly speak up if you're needing an adaptation. Is there anything that anyone came with today that you just want me to be aware of, want me to integrate into our practice? Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to start. I'll give you a visual. We're going to lay down, and you're going to plant your feet like you do for bridge pose. You're going to raise your hips, and you're going to place the tennis ball right there in the center of the room too. Please help yourself. You're gonna place the tennis ball kind of just to the outside of the sacral triangle and down from that hip ridge. So it should feel like it kind of lands in a soft pocket. And once it's there, you're gonna give your weight to it, and then you're gonna swing your hips a little to the left and back to center. And so it's gonna help that ball travel from that center point just to the right of the sacral triangle and kind of out into some of our external rotators, glute medius, and other exciting stuff. So as you're ready, go ahead and check that out. Remember, you get to moderate how much weight you are comfortable giving. Does everybody find something good so far? Mm-hmm. Great. Again, if you're having an issue, give me a wave. Remember to just really keep a sense of rootedness in the feet, because that gives you the ability at any time to adjust. Like if you hit your sciatic nerve or something and you're like, ouch, I want you to be able to reduce that weight. And then at some point, you might move the ball a little bit down. So like lift the hips, place the ball a little bit lower, and then make that same movement. So just staying still on the right side. And as we're doing this, let's start to tune into our breath, right? We can add our 3 points of introversion: inward gaze, looking up towards that third eye, light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, that says, I'm awake, I'm here in my practice. The rest of the tongue and jaw are soft. I'm non-striving. There's nothing to accomplish. I did it. I got to the mat. You might add your ujjayi, great sounding breath, so that that breath traveling through that little throat valve makes the sound of wind in the trees, ocean waves. At some point, you might take the ball even as low as like almost down to the tailbone. And there's one last movement that you could make as well, which is when you've got the hips all the way to the left, so that ball's to the right, you might take your right knee and let it come out into kind of a half frog, just enough to get whatever level of intensity you're game for. I will tell you, just in case you're curious, this affects different people very differently. I'll never forget the night in Spring Valley, we had a mother and daughter. And the mom was going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. My daughter's like, Mom, what are you talking about? This is like, this is not sore. So they sort of publicized it for us right there. Depending on who you are, what's going on in your butt, you may or may not think this is a big deal. When you feel complete, you'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, starting right up high and just to the left of that sacral triangle, and very slowly swinging the hips right and back to center. And we get to notice, you know it, one of my favorite questions, is this side different? Right? And this matters because this is a part of our clue trail of figuring out what might be going on in our body. Right? Do we have one side that is stronger, or the muscles are firing? Do we have one area that maybe has an injury history and there's still stagnation there, maybe fascial adhesions? And through it all, breathing slow, deep, and wide, beginning to notice the pause between inhale and the exhale, exhale and the inhale. We might begin to ask of our breath, is there more? That's one of my favorite tools for staying present with the breath and creating that more elongated breath that is the bliss breath. The I am well, I am whole, I am safe breath. And then at some point, when you feel complete, remember you can, on the left side, do that letting the knee come out to the left if you want. At some point, you might lift the hips again and place it right under the sacral triangle. And what I find is this is kind of a neat version of what we do with the block, right? Almost every class I have you place the block under that sacral triangle. Same of the sacral triangle in, which can create beautiful low back release, but without all of the other pressure the block gives out to the sides. Having said that, if you now want to do the straight leg version of this, I do recommend switching to the block. So you're just going to lift the hips, take that tennis ball out, grab your block, and place it under the sacral triangle. And then extending those legs slowly, if it doesn't feel fabulous, bending them again or even coming off of the block. If anyone's got one of the harder blocks and you wish you know one of the softer ones, give me a holler. I'm happy to come on over. And of course, our deep breath here being key. I often, when people tell me, oh, you know, I can't come to yoga, I've got an ankle that hurts or whatever, I'm like, hey, you know what, just come and breathe. It'll be the hardest class you've ever done in your life. When you feel complete, please come off your object of support and hug knees to belly. Nice, soft hug, little side to side movement. Come into happy baby, and if anybody wishes they had a strap or did take one, give me a holler. I'm happy to come over to one. I love placing it across the arches, and what I find with that is it allows me to move those feet even wider and get those knees even closer to the floor without my shoulders being hiked up. So everybody, see if you can get those shoulder heads down. Yeah, down the back body until you really feel that your neck is liberated. Like your neck should feel like you could just be taking a nap. And then anchor through the core and see if you can get your tailbone to move towards the floor. So your back becomes very stabilized and connected against the floor. And that feels like, to me, a beautiful space to cultivate that deeper hip stretch. And of course, sending breath down into the hips, that's how we get the massage from the inside. What are you finding? And I love going into half straddle from here, and my preferred way of doing it, again, because it just reduces neck tension and provides support. I get rid of the strap, I bring my upper arms to the floor, I get my hands behind the knees, and I kind of let my heels just drop towards the butt with my knees as wide as they can go, almost like a butterfly. And then I extend one leg at a time, really focusing on getting it straight and then pointing, flexing, and rolling through the ankle. Again, a bit of self-massage, a chance to notice as you play now with the other side, you know, is this side different? What's knowable? And if you can, bringing your heels together in butterfly, right here at the butt. And if that just feels like too far for your hands, you can reach the strap around the kind of outside of the feet, shoulder heads anchor. And I like adding a little movement here. So bringing one foot higher up the body and then the other, kind of letting the other one go away. Feeling a little massage into the hip joints. You know, hips hold a lot of kind of fear of moving forward, not safe kinds of energy. So the more we can keep them mobile and love them up, the better. And as you're complete with that, I'm inviting you to place your feet wide into horse riding stance.
anchoring through the upper arm, get those wingtips, the shoulder blades in a little towards the spine. And as you're ready, just raising the hips up. If it feels awkward in any of your joints, please adjust your angle. So if you take your feet too wide, it actually might put weird pressure at the knee or hips. And let's come down and up, just a nice slow journey. Tuning into breath so that it becomes like a steady thread that weaves all these poses together. The next time the hips are down, inviting you to walk the soles of the feet together, letting the knees settle in this relaxed butterfly pose, perhaps palms rotating towards the sky. Nice deep breath into the relaxed pose, and then if you're inclined with me, make it a core active pose, but a different part of the core than you think. We're gonna raise the hips just an inch off the floor, and it should ignite that deep, low glute, inner thigh, groin area, pelvic floor even. I know a lot of times when we think of core, we think belly. But I'll tell you, these muscles, when they are strong and alert, they allow us to root, feel stable, and again, safe. You know, we sometimes talk in warrior poses about kind of the spiritual warrior, that's really what those poses are about, kind of knowing where you stand, being able to speak your truth calmly. These muscles are a big part of that capacity. We'll hold for another 30 seconds or so. If you're getting leg cramps or something, come on out. Otherwise, how much can you relax into this? Coming slowly on down, it might feel really good to straighten your legs and take them wide. So kind of corpse pose, but wider. But I'm gonna have you reach arms overhead and you're gonna be kind of flexing through both your hands and your feet. And then I'm gonna rotate my toes in and out. And when I have them rotated out, I'm gonna see if I can push even firmer through the heels until they kind of pop off the floor, anchoring my thighs down. And then in and out, and you might be pointing and flexing along the way too. Have fun with that. And then at some point, clasping your hand around the opposite wrist and just drawing long upon it, reaching for the wall above your head. Deep breath, and then let's switch. Lovely. Come on back to center. We're gonna bring those legs in and we're gonna come into our abdominal pumping. So gathering a long inhale as if it's all you'd ever do, big belly. Exhale, empty and hold out. And with that breath held out, begin your pumping. Draw the belly in like you're saying, see how skinny I am. Press to the ceiling. Draw in, press to the ceiling. We're gonna be doing a few rounds. You get to adjust your rate of it and intensity. This provides such wonderful massage to the diaphragm, to the digestive organs, to all these areas that we tend to hold actually a lot of emotional stress. Yeah. Might feel great to do sighing breath in between. That is actually one of our nervous system reset tools. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide, and exhaling through the mouth. Yeah. When you feel ready, come into another round. Belly pumping, emptying completely first, and then the pumping. I love that sighing breath. You know, when we sigh, we actually, it's so great, it has been shown that it helps calm our amygdala, but it actually helps relax that alarm center for other people as well.
So especially again during today, as we were mentioning, where a lot of people are experiencing stress, what a lovely tool to just keep your system well and good and help those around you. We're gonna return to bridge pose for real this time, actually, the active bridge pose, not just hanging out on a tennis ball. So planting your feet, and I invite you to place your block between your thighs. And if it doesn't feel okay, again, if you need something other than what you've got, let me know. You don't want it right between the knees if you're using a cork one, because that's a little hard for those kind of attachment points inside the knee joint. Try to have your feet right below the knees. Enjoy a long inhale and kind of root into the floor. And then exhale, belly to spine, and raise those hips. Is there more? Inhale, descend one rib at a time. The slow descent is really gonna strengthen and fire up that posterior chain, all those beautiful back body muscles that we need. And continuing, exhaling, rising into bridge. Inhaling, descending. As you're doing this, try to keep thinking about squeezing that block, or if you're not using one, use an imaginary one, sending your knees away from you. And of course, please have the shoulder blades a little in so that the cervical spine isn't getting pressure every time the hips are up. If you're feeling neck pressure, just lift the chin up and back a little bit. I find it really interesting that it only takes, for me, a subtle amount of pressure in the neck to actually increase kind of emotional pressure. I'll notice it if I'm wearing like a sports bra that's a T-back that's too tight and is pressing on my trapezius muscles. That'll be enough to make me feel just a little like, When you feel that you are complete, come on down, remove the block, bring the feet together, and we're going to squeeze the thighs together as firmly as we can, so like no gap comes into play as you raise the hips. So it's like trying to go into bridge, but you won't be able to go very high, and we don't care. What we're trying to do is ignite that deep inner line and those strong rooting muscles. Breathing into that activity before slowly releasing, and we're gonna come into reclined pigeon. If you need any kind of straightening the legs or anything before that, knees to belly, you go for it. Otherwise, I'm gonna take my right leg, straighten it to the sky, roll out that ankle, and then flex it. And I'm gonna cross that right ankle onto the left thigh and wag my right knee a few times, just again, loving up that hip. Then I'm gonna raise my left leg off the floor. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. But try to hug that right knee as tightly as you can towards your right chest. Shoulders are down and relaxed. Then send it a little towards the center line. So I'm taking my knee just an inch or two to the left. And usually you find some good treasure in that right thigh and butt cheek. If you wanna play with angle, you might clasp the hand with your, foot with your left hand and kind of alternatingly draw more powerfully on the foot and the knee until you find perfection. Isn't it wonderful? Just, this act of listening inward towards your body, I feel like is so healing, such a loving act, and really allows us to give the body exactly what it needs. Again, sending breath down into the hips, hello, hips and low back. And then as you're bend, if you feel like the hamstrings are kind of tightening up, and then left leg extends, I'm gonna point and flex and roll. And then with heel flexed across the left ankle on the right thigh, give that left knee a big wag. Raising my right leg, hugging left knee, making sure the shoulders are sliding down, elbows in. Just a beautiful
powerful but relaxed massage you're giving yourself as you send that knee towards the center line. And you might explore, is there a better angle for you by holding the foot also? You know, in yoga, we're always seeking our edge. I like to say we're intensity seekers, but in the most loving way. We're looking for the edge, which is a place where there is intensity that we can breathe into, that we can evolve. Excellent. When you are complete here, take all the time you like, but we're gonna come up to seated, and you might want to tuck a little something under your butt if you're wishing, gosh, I wish I had a folded blanket. I've got these extra bolsters I pulled out. If you want to sit with your legs out in a straddle, you can. It does not have to be cross-legged. One version too is where you might actually sit with the block right under the butt, but with your knees like so. So, because sometimes people's knees bother them at an angle. And again, if even just being up on the bolster isn't enough, if you want to move so that there's a wall supporting you. But I find just taking my legs out into straddle reduces the hamstring resistance or intensity. And I'm gonna, if you would like to have some of this Olbas oil, I'm gonna ask you to just have your palm out. I ideally wanna not get it on your fingertips in case you like later touch your eye. So I'm trying to just get a drop or two in your palm or your wrist. Oh gosh, there we go. Yeah, it's a little funky sometimes. I might be giving you more drops than you intended. Yeah. And while you're waiting for me to come around, again, just scan your body to make sure you've gotten the seated position that feels good to you, sustainable. Okay. You can always change it, obviously. This is the whole deal with our practice. It's about your body right now, what it wants today. So I want to just mention that when we get deep breath, ideally we would feel some kind of a stretch right up into the clavicle area. You know, that last kind of upper lobe part of the lung. The problem is that when we're stressed out and someone says, hey, take a deep breath, or we think, oh, I better take a deep breath, we tend to like shrug our shoulders and try to get the breath up in there, which actually will not get us the deep breath. So I want to point out that when we're breathing, and we haven't done 3-part breath for a long time, but I'll just go kind of mention it then, therefore. When we're breathing, ideally, we want to fill the low belly first. So you kind of want to push it in there, push it down and in, which makes the belly go out. And then it rises like a wave into this diaphragm area. And then I think of it as a bucket overflowing. The last bit of breath kind of comes up and overflows. But if we try to think about getting it up here, we'll tend to do that, right? So I want you to just think about this as this big well or bucket that you're filling, and then eventually it overflows, all right? So I'm gonna invite us to do just a little, it's Nadi Shodhana, it's called alternate nostril breathing. If for any reason this doesn't work for you and you just wanna kind of hold that Olbas oil under your nose, you can do that too. So you're gonna take your hand, whichever one you've got that on, and you're gonna put your thumb on one nostril and your ring and pinky finger on the other, with your middle and index finger just kind of up and out of the way. Traditionally, people would place it on the forehead, but I find that actually kind of awkward. If you want to, you can. All right. So as you're ready, first just kind of tune in. Notice if you feel like your spine is straight, your shoulders are down, And as you're ready, simply close the nostril with your thumb and inhale slowly up the other side. When it's time to exhale, you're going to switch your closure. So close then the other nostril, and you're going to exhale out that first side. You're going to hold your hand as you inhale.
and you're gonna switch your closure on the exhale. So that's really the rule of it, is you're only moving your closure when it's time to exhale. It's actually pretty simple, but I know it can be a little kind of interesting when you're first learning it. So you hold steady during the inhale. In order to exhale, you switch your closure. You maintain that closure in order to inhale, and you switch for the exhale. So you're basically inhaling up the same nostril you exhaled out of. So it kind of goes up and over and up and over. And they say that this is really great for balancing out the kind of two hemispheres of the brain. I also find it's a wonderful tool for just becoming breath attentive. And there can be very subtle kind of stress responses here. If you are a little stuffy, it might be tempting to just, force the breath past that stuffiness. Instead, see if you can just patiently thread it past any resistance. And if it really is just too much, just open your mouth and sip a little breath through there, or reduce the intensity of the closure on the nostril. If anybody's wishing me a Kleenex, let me know. I'm happy to deliver. Yeah, it can kind of get flow going, especially with that breathing oil. And inevitably, when we're trying to focus on anything, our mind will wander to other stuff. That is who we are, right? It's why we call it the monkey mind or puppy mind. Just simply notice that your attention has wandered and return it to the breath again and again. And thinking as you're inhaling about that well that you're filling from the very bottom, dumping that breath in there, pouring it in until it overflows. We'll do just a couple more. The next time you've completed an exhale, just let the hand release and experience an inhale through both nostrils. All right, we're gonna release our legs if they need a little break like so. You might move them around, and then we're going to come forward onto hands and knees in table pose. If table pose is not comfortable for you for knees or anything else, you might do a standing version because we're coming into cow cat. So we're going to inhale, draw the tailbone back, heart forward. Again, enjoy that fullness of breath, just like you've been doing into the belly. Exhaling, tucking tailbone. And whether you're in table or the standing version, at some point in cat back, you might enjoy kind of shrugging one shoulder away from the hip at a time. It can be a marvelous stretch into those ribs, intercostals, and more. I love cow-cat. It's so good for us. And it's a really great place to notice, where are you feeling congested in the spine, if at all, if you're feeling sore, achy, thick. Let's notice that. And I hope you're really letting your head go during cat back. You can even give it a little yes, no shake. You can practice letting your lips and your cheeks get kind of soft. If being on hands is problematic at any point, remember on your palms, you could go to wrists or fists. And I also do have the cork wedge that can be helpful if anybody wants that, let me know. Otherwise, right now, we're gonna come into what I call stable table. So you've got all that engagement of cat back, but you can lengthen your spine into a nice flat tabletop. And one way to know if we're in our core here is we should theoretically be able to clap. Yeah, if you can't, just get excited. If you can reduce a little weight in the hands, that's good too. And we're gonna now, in fact, reduce weight and lift the right hand and left knee just literally a ½ inch off the floor. I'm gonna ask you to breathe softly inside of this action. And then slowly return, and notice how easy it is when you've got all 4 limbs on the floor, right? And then lift that left hand and right knee, breathing and practicing staying soft in the face, the neck, the tongue. Slowly return that hand, good. If you need to roll out wrists or anything, go for it. We're gonna continue with that, but adding limb extension. So I release one hand, one knee, and then I'm gonna reach and straighten through the heel and the fingertips. And by the way, see if you can release your left hand. Then come back as slowly as you can. Drawing up into your back. It's almost like you're practicing on hot lava or something. You can use your core to lift and keep from making as big of a connection with that hot surface. There's probably a gentler image that we should come up with, but lest I stress you out. So continue, if you would, another round or two, depending on how fast your breath is. The more you're flexed through the heel, the more you might be able to feel your glute light up. And I really hope you can feel that butt cheek go bam. Yeah, because again, that carries us through the world with stability and ease. Now let's do one more round. And if you're game, when those limbs are extended, again, check that you're drawing up into your body through that front. Take the limbs just a little to the outside, and I mean like 10 degrees or something. So, you know, your hand might be going to 11 or 1, depending on which hand you've got up there. And slowly back. Yeah, and that's great because this fires up those muscles that maybe we don't use as often. But we need them. And release. Lovely. We're going to come into downward dog and walk our hands back to ragdoll. If that's not great for your wrists, shoulders, or anything else, meet us in ragdoll at the back of the mat. Otherwise, you might spend a moment in downward dog, just waving the hips side to side. I love again how it gets us into that side body. And ragdoll, knees are bent, weight is mid-foot. You might play a little, take your weight back and forth, a little side to side. Then find center, please cultivate a deep, deep breath. On your next inhale, hands on shins, extend the spine straight, tabletop. Exhaling, tuck your tailbone like you're going into cat back. Sit into your chair or bar stool. You get to decide how high, how low. Try to be relaxed in the neck. If you have arms up, I find sometimes it creates neck tension, so I usually have them straight down. On a long inhale, root and rise, push the earth, push the ceiling away, squeeze those thighs. And exhale and resolve in prayer. You might connect the thumbs thoughtfully right at that sternum or kind of heart space. Let's come into breath and notice where it is in this shape. I'm hoping you can feel it in your upper back. And we're gonna then slowly, by the way, see if you can get your forearms to make a straight line versus the hands higher. Now draw down before we then slowly go into our nerve flossing. I always think about, when we're trying to control the uncontrollable in our life, there's a lot of symbolism around the tension that happens in our hands, right? Trying to get a hold on things. And if you're not feeling much and you want to feel a little more, you could take them, if you're going to the left, for example, you could take the middle finger of the right hand and press left. And that will kind of take it up a notch. Yeah, everybody feeling something? Let's unwind that, take those hands back behind, intertwine in Yoga Mudra, shoulder heads rotate down and back so that we can safely, slowly press fists towards the floor. And if you go to do that and you just can't get those arms straight, grab a sock or a scarf or a strap, give yourself a little room between the hands so that you can ignite straight arms. And then you can play with getting the hands up off the butt. And sometimes, I know some of us like to fold forward in that movement. And I find that even though I can get my hands clasped, that I actually get a better experience if I use a strap or scarf, because then I get this bigger range of motion where my hands might kind of come up and over with gravity. Please do everything really slow in this movement. We've got a lot of really delicate connections up around the clavicle, trap muscles, and so on. And of course, breathing into this is the exciting part. Yeah, you might use the power of your hands pressing down in a way to bring you up. And go ahead and release your strap. Inhale, sweeping up. Exhaling, prayer hands. Ask you to one more time, tune into that heart and sternum point. You can always add a sighing breath if you just feel like, yeah, that's an energy that wants to move. We're gonna go sideways on our mat. Let's face that direction. There's some beautiful golden trees out there. And we're gonna come into just, first of all, what I think of as kind of a small strap, a kind of or a squat distance for our feet, first of all. And I first just want you to do a gentle side to side and just see how your knees feel about that, how your ankles are. We wanna be able to keep our feet completely rooted. Good. And then I'm gonna have you do a gentle lift of one leg at a time. So you're just going side to side. Yeah, and if it feels natural and good to do so, go ahead and just add arms, let them swing. If you want a little more heat and a little more muscular work, go ahead and take those hips lower, and then you get to kind of spring up using butt cheeks and all those muscles at the fronts of the thighs. Yeah. These look good. I said, hopefully we'll feel a little heart rate, a little heat uptick. A few more. You get to decide how intense. And eventually come to a standstill, taking those arms out above you in a V, unless that bothers your neck, in which case you can bring them down straight out. And we're going to fold our fingers in towards the palm and kind of have our thumbs projecting out like, hello, you're hitchhiking, okay? And we're gonna add a little bellows breathing here. If you're again too stuffy and you need to reduce it or do it through the mouth, go for it. But we're gonna move some stagnant chi. So when you're ready, rapidly in and out. Again, please continue to scan your neck. If it's tightening and you can't loosen it, bring those arms down and still keep pushing powerfully through the fists. If anybody needs a Kleenex, let me know. Just a few more. Soften the tongue, just the tip of it connecting. So all this power is happening at the belly, not through the neck and tongue. And then on a slow, long inhale, reach slowly up through the thumbs until they maybe come together. Exhaling, prayer hands, ah. Ah. Big inhale again. Focus in that upper back as well as the chest. Nice long inhale, root rise, sweep up. Exhale, bend the knees into a little squat so you can place your hands on the thighs. And depending on your kind of range of motion, you might need to take the feet wider for this to feel good. We're gonna do a little spinal twisting. So I'm gonna take my right shoulder and I'm gonna bring it across towards that left foot. And then left shoulder towards that right foot. I'm going to continue this nice and slow, lots of core support. So yeah, I've got my hands on my thighs, but my belly is drawing up into the spine. And I might begin to then rotate my head with this. So left shoulder coming towards right foot, I might look up to the right. And if it feels good, you might take the feet a little bit wider and begin to play with straightening the one leg a little bit. So as I take right shoulder towards left foot, I might straighten my right leg a little. Please make sure you're not pressing on your knee, right? I don't want to be pushing pressure onto my knee joint from the outside or the front either. And you don't have to get it entirely straight. If you're tight like me, you'll get a stretch into that inner thigh. Yeah? I'm not alone? All right. Oh, it feels so good. Just a couple more. And then, again, some of you will be more comfortable just staying up here or coming out entirely. Some are now craving hands to the floor and going side to side. If that's you, enjoy it. And you can even use a block if you don't want to quite go to the floor, but you don't want to be on the knees. And some of us love this version where we then let the one foot of the straightening leg release from the floor and let the hips drop towards the heel. Yeah. And if that's you, you can even reach hands out away from the body and just get an additional stretch through the torso. We're going to be coming into a quadricep stretch. Now, some folks I know greatly prefer the standing version. You come on up, maybe you want a wall or something to hang on to in order to get a hold of one ankle. Some people I know greatly prefer the laying down on your belly or even on your side version. I've had a lot of people actually say that the side version was really helpful to them to discover that they got less sort of knee and low back torque. So if that's sounding appealing, you might give that a try. Just a little word wise, if you're doing the side version, make sure your floor leg is straight extended, right? I want that as my foundation. So you look like you're standing. You just happen to be laying down. And if you go to reach for that ankle and it's just way too far, a strap can be helpful. I know it can be a little awkward to get that around the ankle. I'm happy to help if you want. Yeah, grabbing your leggings or your pants can be useful. Please make sure to engage your glutes. That engagement really stabilizes the back, but it's also what's going to create that stretch into our hip flexors. Yeah, nice active forefoot. I love it. And the more we move our bent knee back, the more stretch we get. So anybody who's not getting a stretch? Anybody who's got like low back pressure, they're not sure how to evolve? All right, good. Let's find the other side. This is a really important stretch. I notice consistently when I have people on the massage table that a lot of people are way too tight through here. And the way I can tell is if they're laying face down and I go to bend their knee and their pelvis comes up, it tells me they are under a lot of torque in those hip flexors, quadriceps. So this is your chance to discover in your own landscape how much is going on there, how much love does it need. And when you do come out, notice what your body might need. We're gonna all be meeting standing, but some of you, if you're on your belly, you might press back to child's pose. If you're on your side, you might just sort of gently come on up from there. If you've been standing, maybe you want a little ragdoll for a moment to relax your low back. We're gonna do train tracks today. I felt like it would just be great because it really helps unwind our torque, and I think helps us again feel more rooted and steady. And kind of working with some of that theme of moving through stressful times by controlling what we can control and creating our own strength and steadiness. So train tracks, we start off in mountain, which is basically our feet parallel and toes straight forward and about 5-6 inches apart. You don't want to be closer than that because you'll end up feeling like you're kind of on a balance beam. And this is a balancing pose, I will say. So I like having my hands on my hips to just kind of help with that. And when you're ready, we're going to take the right foot back on the ball of the foot. This is like it's not a lunge, it's just a little step back.
And on the ball of the foot, and I didn't want my right hip to come with it, so I'm really keeping those headlights straight forward. And I'm gonna slowly lay that right heel, trying to lay it in the train track, right? So I started with feet straight. I want that heel in the track. It usually isn't, but I'm gonna look down underneath me and then I'm gonna put it in the track. If you can't, you need a shorter stance. So if you just can't get that right heel straight back, just bring your foot a little more forward, all right? If in fact you've got it in the track and you don't feel any stretch anywhere, try scooching your front foot a little bit forward, just like scoochy scooch, you've got it. Now I want you to notice what it's like standing here. For me, I have one leg that when it's the forward leg, really wants to lose its contact through the ball of the big toe. And you can maybe feel that, or you can look down and see that ankle wobbling. If that's happening to you, think about squeezing your thighs towards each other and then pushing down through that inner line, and you should feel more stable. Let's inhale and reach up. This might accentuate a stretch through that, again, right front side. And then let's gently return to our mountain. If that right leg feels a little goofy, that's great. That means you actually found the kind of right stretch, the right intensity. We'll come back with the left foot. Again, if you know that your heel is not anywhere near the train track usually, think about trying to lay it to the outside of the train track, and it might end up in the track. Go ahead and look underneath. Scooch it straight. Come back up and notice. And notice what might be happening in that right front, that right foot and ankle. If you need to scooch that front foot forward, whatever you gotta do, and then reaching up. So notice if you've got a stretch, and is it different in this side, different location, different intensity. Again, in this pose, generally both legs are straight. If that hurts your knees or you need to do something else, do it. Otherwise, both legs straight. And let's return. Ooh, let's come into a little ragdoll, both knees bent. Yeah, any questions, any noticings? I want to make sure everyone's getting something useful out of this. Now, not everyone is going to have as much right to left difference as I did when I started this pose, but most of us will have something. Everybody getting a little something? Okay, great. Like I said, this is definitely one of those poses that I think helps us on the clue trail, figuring out where our torque is. So we're gonna do it one more time, and we're gonna add just a little more intentional breath and stretch into it. Right foot comes back a little. Lay that heel in your track. Make sure you're anchoring through that front foot inner line. Look underneath, get the foot straight, then raise those arms up, and about 3 breaths or so, deep belly breath. Notice if it would feel good to sort of just lift your ribs up a little bit. I don't mean lean back. Big belly breath. And then slowly return. Step back with the left foot. I've had a lot of people over the years we've been playing with this one discover a big difference on one side that ultimately helped them resolve strength and tension imbalance that radically affected low back problems. So it's a really fun pose that can tell us a lot in a short period and get us a big stretch. I love this version with the hands up and maybe ribs up because I can get a stretch into that deep psoas muscle, which is our fight or flight muscle, right? So when we breathe into that area, we're affirming I'm whole, I'm well, I'm safe. And release, let's fold. Marvelous. If you have a craving for dog series, and I know not everybody does or will, this would be your opportunity to step on back into your downward facing dog, coming into some dog series. We are going to be meeting on the floor. We're going to be doing a little forearm plank. So don't worry, if you're not going to do dog series and you want some power and heat, you'll get your chance. If you're doing dog series, you're inhaling to your plank, checking you're in your core. If you're on your feet, you should be able to hop. You might come to knees for better control so that you can keep those shoulders down and elbows in as you do your chaturanga, your low push-up. Inhaling, anchoring pelvis, coming into your cobra.
Again, you might go to downward dog or crested child's pose from there. And we're gonna all come to forearm plank. Some people like coming from their belly, so you can do that. You could also, if you're on your knees already, just come forward onto your forearms. Shoulders anchor down, make sure you come into a little bit of a cat back before you choose to step back actively through the feet. And you might decide to come to your knees right away, right? Knees is gonna be less intense on the low back and definitely more approachable. Plenty intense, I find. And you're gonna breathe, notice. If you're on your feet, make sure you're squeezing an imaginary block between the thighs, that you're igniting your thighs towards the ceiling, because this is gonna let you explore your core power, and you have a lot. We just have to use our architecture right. Okay, good. Can you breathe here? Can you soften your tongue? Yeah, peace, shanti, shanti, shanti. Peace inside of power, that's that spiritual warrior. And one of the most important things we practice, softening. When you come out, become a lump. You can come out onto your belly or back to child's pose, again, whatever you might be craving. So one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that sometimes if you're kind of stressed and tense and you try to relax, it's hard. But if you tighten more, then it gets easier to just let go. So we're gonna come into forearm plank one more time. And options for intensifying, which by the way, if you were kind of already at your edge, stick with that. Or you can do a little thing like just walk your elbows forward like 1/4 of an inch, okay? Otherwise, if you want a little more intensity, you might decide to raise one foot off the floor at a time. You could even take it a little out to the side and practice staying soft in the neck. Sometimes people like playing with frog leg. If you're doing that, it's really slow and you're gonna just squeeze that knee towards your tricep for the whole exhale. Make sure the floor foot isn't rocking. So again, squeeze the imaginary block to keep that standing foot, if you will, stable. As soon as our heel rotates out, we become weak. Not because we don't have the muscles, but again, we've now taken our architecture into a shape where we can't experience that strength. Of course, we breathe here. Whew, and one more time, practice softening, becoming a lump. Sighing breaths, useful. I'm gonna do one more thing here on our belly, and that is our jet airplane, or if you prefer, glider plane. So starting on the forehead, anchoring the pelvic triangle, hip bones and pubic bone. I like to tense my fingertips and rotate my shoulder heads until I know they're as far from the floor and away from the ears as they can be. Inhaling, extending, reaching the hands off the floor. Perhaps also the head comes off the floor. Exhale, slowly descending. Stay long as you descend. Again, inhaling, taking flight. Exhaling, descending. Maybe you want to hold in flight and play with reaching one arm forward, one arm back. I love the experience this gives me both in shoulders and feeling the difference through the side and back muscles. Good, try to stay long in the back of the neck so there's no intention to look forward, just feeling the beautiful elongation. You're almost giving yourself a double chin, actually. You kind of want your chin tucking up into your throat. Yeah, and if you're inspired, you want to briefly do a little Superman pose and do both arms forward. You can have the legs extended and raised. I don't do the legs usually because I feel a low back pressure when I do that. And release. Maybe you're pressing back to child's or you're just settling on your belly. Either way, tune in to deep inhalation in the belly and as it moves into your back. Excuse me. Thank you. And we're going to close before Shavasana or resting time. Shavasana technically is corpse pose, but you'll be able to, of course, take any, excuse me, any shape that you like. But we're going to do a little vagus nerve reset. And for this, you need to be on your back. And then you can, like I said, do whatever pose you want. So if you wanna, get a bolster ready, if you're gonna have a bolster under your knees, you could do that now. There's the resting posture that I love, that I promote frequently, and I think we still have some extra bolsters available. You'll wanna wait to do this until you do your vagus nerve thing, but this is the position. And you would just prop one end of the block or the bolster on the block, and like so. And I find it is amazing for heart opening, and it keeps my low back from tightening up. Laying flat on the floor is just brutal for me. I can do it in my bed, and the floor is no good. So vagus nerve, what we're doing, you're going to intertwine your fingers nice and tight, and you're gonna place that underneath the base of the skull so that you really feel your knuckles against the floor. And again, this is why I'm not having you do it on a bolster. You need that contact of the knuckles into the floor. Got it. If for any reason this is bothering your shoulder, please honor that and adjust for that. But otherwise, you're going to very slowly, with your eyes straight open to the ceiling, now take them to the right, keeping the eyes open. We're going to hold there for about 30 seconds. And ideally, we're holding until we yawn, swallow, or sigh. And don't feel that you need to force those things to happen. And if you want to hold a little longer for that, go for it. Otherwise, now you would bring your eyes back to center and then over to the left for again 30 seconds, or until you swallow, yawn, or sigh. And bringing your eyes back to center, or again, holding a little longer if you'd like to see if that response will return. So this is a very simple vagus nerve kind of reboot, something you can do repeatedly if you're curious and want to see how it affects you. Invitation to do, before you go into your resting time, just a little bit of occipital ridge massage. And you can do it either with the hands, having your hands where they were but unclasped, and using your thumb around the base of the ridge. You can also play with either the tennis ball or the golf ball. And sometimes I find I can get a pressure point differently than I can with my thumb, but you have to kind of be able to hold it in place and then move the head on the edge. When you feel complete, you might be inspired to close with face massage, maybe temples, eyebrows. If you don't care about your hairdo, brisk scalp rub. And I'd love to come around today while you are in resting and offer either a shoulder press or occipital touch. Is there anybody who would prefer me to just skip them? Okay. Take all the time you need to get comfortable, get cozy. Is there anybody wishing they had a bolster, wants to try that resting pose? Anybody else? You might enter your resting time with a few more sighs a deep message again to your system. I'm whole, I'm well, I'm safe, non-striving, there is nothing to accomplish. Feel your head grow heavy as it settles down, down, down. Let that growing heaviness move down through the body, torso, arms, the legs. It's almost as if you're planting yourself, as if you were going to move into a deep, deep rest for a long, long while. I invite you to stay deeply introverted, but become lightly aware of my voice. Inviting you to turn your gaze up and in, third eye point. And in this moment, feel free to gather any imagery that brings you a sense of peace and joy. Perhaps it's imagining a beautiful outcome as you see it for today. Maybe there's some other aspect of life that you're working with. We know that the things we imagine have an immediate and powerful effect on our bodies and systems. And I believe very much that they have a power to also affect people and experiences outside of us. So put all of your love and joy into imagining all kinds of goodness as you see it. Every time you find yourself returning to stress within the body, notice what you were thinking and turn your thoughts towards something that you feel it has a powerful, positive outcome on your system. When you are ready to make your journey back into the flow of life out there, you might bring your hands together and create a brisk rub and heat, igniting your own healing prana life force and turning that in towards the body, either out in the energy fields, 10 to 12 inches, or directly on the surface, head, heart, or abdomen, or anywhere else. I thank you each so much for being at the mat today, for joining me in this. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. I do have class this Thursday. We do not have class next week. I will be out of town. Very excited to share that all with you as well. Namaste. Glad we could be here together. Thanks so much.